हे गाइस, कैसे हैं आप सब लोग इस सिविल सर्विस ऑफिशियल चैनल पर। आज हम स्टार्ट करेंगे नेक्स्ट चैप्टर एंथ्रोपोलॉजी एज अ पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, डिस्टिंक्टिवनेस ऑफ एंथ्रोपोलॉजिकल कंट्रीब्यूशन, चैप्टर नंबर 2। लेट्स स्टार्ट चैप्टर। Anthropology is the most liberating of all the sciences over the last 100 years, and especially during the last 50 years. It has consistently tried to liberate us from many fallacies and misnomers. It has successfully exploded the myth of social and cultural superiority, and it puts the entire mankind on one and the same pedestal. Right from the beginning, it has taken upon itself responsibility to inform its students about the nature of the world as we know it. Further, as Witten and Hunter rightly in 1975 points out, that it has taught its student ways of thinking about the world as we conceive of it, discipline them as critical thinkers, and at the same time provide them with the intellectual equipment, enabling them to open their minds so that they can contemplate new concepts, ideas, and facts. Thus, anthropology has a critical contribution to make in this process. The majority of the students of anthropology at college university level may not become professional anthropologists, but they continue to disseminate, spread whatever they have learned by virtue of being students of anthropology of some stage of their lives. Thus, anthropology also contributes to the formation of enlightened citizenry free from the narrow and parochial feeling. Despite its close proximity to sociology, history, psychology, economics, and human biology, anthropology stands apart. The individuality or distinctiveness always manifests and reflects itself all the anthropological writings. Why the anthropological contribution is distinctive? What are the distinguishing features? What are the bases in which distinctiveness? What are the hallmarks that help anthropology carry a distinctively participant? Observation and cross-culture comparison are the approaches or set of themes that make anthropology and anthropological contribution different. One of two of these may be found to practice in other social sciences too, but as a combination or a set, these constitute the basis and reason of distinctiveness of being of anthropology as a discipline and contribution that it has been making as a body of knowledge that we have. Holism. Holism, as already mentioned, that a subject matter of anthropology is vast. It is a science of man in totality, and its scope and canvas it cuts across the barriers of time and space. Anthropology tries to pull all the information and together and organize it in some systematic way. Holism is the attempt to get the whole picture and to apply the knowledge for many different fields to the understanding of many aspects of behavior. This is unlike other social or biological sciences like sociology, economics, psychology, history, or human biology, which confine themselves to one particular aspect of humanity. Now, anthropology is a point of view. The holistic approach signifies that attempt to incorporate knowledge from every possible sphere into a meaningful and understanding of humanity. The holistic approach tries to train a student of anthropology to view his area of study from all possible angles. For example, a student of anthropology who goes to study joint family in any particular community or the region of India shall not only view it as a form of family with a particular set of rights and responsibilities and as a cultural ideal, but also its economic and political ramifications, its impact on the varying size of land holdings, agriculture practices, and innovations, varying rate of fertility, aspect of socialization, etc. So at the same time, it is not true to conclude that every student of anthropology successfully uses holistic approach. Honestly speaking, it is more an ideal, a holistic approach, honest and goal than reality. Although it in the past we have a tradition of individual anthropologists is trying to cover all the aspects of individual anthropologists trying to and of the subject. Thus, the term general anthropologist represents a category which try to encompass various aspects of subjects. Franz Boas from USA and D.N. Mazumdar from India represented this category. However, this is also true that due to the explosion of knowledge and increased communication and increasing expense of subject, no single anthropologist is able to investigate and study personally everything that has to do with human beings. With growing specialization, it is being increasingly difficult for any individual anthropologist to conduct studies outside his area of specialization. Yet, because of his commitment for holism, he continues to communicate in varying degrees with fellow anthropologists working in diverse fields and uses the information created by others in pursuit of holistic study of man that anthropology is. Next is cultural relativism. Anthropology not only helps us to understand genetically transmitted differences but also culturally differences, that is, variations in ways of life. For an study, objective study and assessment of other cultures other than the culture one has been trained into, or one has to be cultivate a strong sense of neutrality. By and large, we are trained to be ethnocentrics. Ethnocentrism may be described as the belief of that one's own values, traditions, customs, and precisely speaking pattern of behavior is natural, correct, better, and thus preferable to those other cultures. Ethnocentrics looks at the world from their own tinted glasses. It breeds intolerance for other cultures, every type of differences and variations. Cultural relativism is the principle that all the cultural patterns are equally valid, and hence every culture or any part of a culture should be viewed in terms of its own logic and rationale. It implies that one should not judge others by our own standards. Cultural relativism opens new vistas and avenues of knowledge beside helping us to be more tolerant towards others. For example, for a devout and conservative Hindu, the very idea of eating beef may be obnoxious, but the vast majority of tribal population, Christians, Muslims, and lower caste of Hindu society consume and relish beef. Therefore, the food habits of these groups should not be viewed from the point of view of non-Easterns only. Likewise, cousin marriage and the matrimonial alliances between close kins are popular practice among a substantial section of Hindus, majority of Muslims, Christians, tribal population, etc. In order to understand the fully this type of behavior, one has to maintain a posture of neutrality and try to understand and analyze in terms of internally consistent logic and rationale of these groups practicing in every culture proposes solution to the problems people it face. If a solution seems impractical to us because we know a different solution, we must not overlook the fact that within its culture context it may be very practical indeed. If one sits as a judge and passes moral judgment according to one's own cultural values, this is sheer ethnocentrism. So here is a word of caution that a pitfall. By attempting to explain objectively such practices as head hunting, infanticide, witchcraft, and sorcery, the anthropologist may seems to be approving them. By avoiding any value of judgment and not condemning them hardly means supporting them. There is a section of anthropologists which maintains the anthropologist must shed their posture of neutrality and objectivity over such issues and express their approval, condemnation, and to avoid any confusion about their stand. Cultural relativism was not an article of faith with the anthropologists of the 19th century. At that time, they were an ethnocentric as any other social scientist largely. It was due to the popularity of the theory of social Darwinism. When Darwin's theory was applied to social evolution, the result was a number of beliefs and doctrines smacking of ethnocentrism. It was not Darwin's theory at all, and Darwinism was not meant to be applied on social evolution. As a result of this innovation, the belief that the Western society was superior to the primitive society and the whites are superior to the colored or blacks was held by many. This view in turn tended to justify European colonialism and domination of non-Western countries. The tone and tenor was highly racist. In the first quarter of present century, Franz Boas, a great American anthropologist, emerged on the scene that he forcefully rejected any correlation between race and level of cultural evolution, implying the superiority of Western white cultures. In his opposition to ethnocentrism, Bose arrived at a position that is popularly known as cultural relativism. For Bose, his large number of students, now eminent anthropologists, and next generation of anthropologists, it was an ethical position. Non-judgmental appreciations of the strength and the weaknesses as of all human societies has been an article of faith with the anthropologist ever since Bose took the stand. Cross-cultural comparison. Anthropologists have always been concerned to study in the infinite cultural heterogeneity in the highly colorful mosaic of human affairs. Despite that amazing range of cultural variation, there is an equally, you can say, amazing range of cultural similarities. Only systematic comparisons between cultures can bring out such variations and similarities. It also promised to provide cultural universals. Thus, a major approach in anthropology has been cross-cultural comparison, also known as comparative method, between the two different cultures. The roots of comparative perspective in modern anthropology may be traced back to the 19th century imperialism. colonialism. The variety of people from Europe reached to the hitherto unexplored areas of Europe, Africa, and other concerns of the corners of the world in the 19th century. Besides the soldiers and the missionaries, adventurers, hunters, and explorers were the first to report about the exotic people and cultures. Some of them took an interest in giving vivid descriptions just out of the curiosity. Thus, a substantial amount of ethnographic material was collected by 45 years. However, it was only when the pioneer anthropologists like Morgan started using the material for comparative analysis that this wealth of information gained some academic respectability. At this junction, it is important to note that earlier anthropologists of the 19th century were armchair scholars. They did not go into the field to collect the data themselves. They used to send questionnaire to the administrator or a missionary within whose jurisdiction particular tribe or any other human group under study was living. Obviously, they based their theory on the data was collected by others. Among such others works are like L.H. Morgan's systems of consanguinity and affinity of human family 1870 and ancient society 1877, Sir Henry Mean's ancient law 1861, E.B. Tyler's primitive culture 1871, R.R. Marty the threshold of religion 1909. The ideal way was the collection of data by the researcher himself, which became the usual practice in anthropology from the first quarter of the 20th century, and the long-term aim of even the earlier anthropologists who relied upon others for the ethnographic data was to generate meaningful scientific laws which describe the behavior of people everywhere. This ultimately relies on a systematic, comparison and analysis of data from a vast number of cultures. A landmark is comparative method was reached in 1937 when G.P. Murdoch initiated the cross-culture survey, later converted into the Human Relations Area files (HRAF). The main objective of this project is systematically collection of ethnographic information from all the known human societies for making comparison. A world ethnographic sample had already been compiled based upon a representative sample of cultures. This sample provides information for cross-culture study of a large number of anthropological studies. Now, participant observation. Anthropologist attachment to fieldwork experience is well known, and his most favorite way of getting answers is through fieldwork. In the early 20th century, Malinowski raised it to the status of an art or craft, and now no anthropologist worth his salt can underestimate or underrate the significance of fieldwork. In fact, one who has never done fieldwork is hardly regarded as an anthropologist. Life in the field is an orgy of discovery. Observation has always been the basis of the systematic and scientific study. However, observation alone is not enough. When one deals with human situations, although being himself a human being, it is difficult for him to study a fellow human being objectively. Objectively may be an ideal, but the anthropologists by training are committed to it. Yet they try to be as objective as possible. Participant observations, as preferably by Malinowski, involves trying to come on an appreciation of our subject's way of life through immersing ourselves in it, participating in many of its day-to-day aspects, while at the same time attempting objectively to observe, describe, and analyze their social behavior and culture. Hunter and Witten, 1975. As stated earlier, both participation and observation are necessarily in good fieldwork. Observation also cannot help the observer to know the true meaning of the actions of other until one has to chance to take part in them. Hence, the participant observation involves a knowledge of language of society under study, a high degree of rapport with the pupil, and excellent impression management and ability to observe and endure a cultural shock on one may experience while living in an entirely different culture. It is profound experience, uncomfortable and sometimes shattering, but richly rewarding as well, which tell by FM Keesing. Like any other techniques or method, participant observation has its strengths and weaknesses. Its main weakness is, as pointed out by many anthropologists, is that the researcher or field worker may become emotionally involved with the pupil being studied, thus robbing that study of objectivity. However, as pointed out earlier, that total detachment may never be possible, and hence this weakness is more than compensated by other plus points, is like getting an insider's view, ensuring a certain humanistic concern, and the personal involvement. These advantages prove very beneficial in any applied anthropology project meant for society under study. On the basis of the above described hallmarks or distinguishing features or themes or perspectives, whatever they may be called, one can safely conclude that when taken up in combination, it helps anthropology stand apart in all the social and biological sciences. Some sociologists claim that they too have been following and using the combination scrupulously, still remaining a sociologist. Well, the most appropriate and prompt answer that comes to mind is that you are more of a social culture anthropologist than a sociologist. Now, chapter is completed. Now, next chapter is we start day after tomorrow, origin and growth of Indian anthropology. Thank you. And if you like my video, please like and share and subscribe. And I know that there might be problem of my issue of a mic or sound problem, so you have to just manage. And after some time, I will I will try to brought a new mic so that you will get a much better sound. Thank you.